Lewis.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And Deputy Prime Minister, so you've said you do what you say. So can you tell us then, since the July elections, you've been in post now 12 months, how many planning permissions have been granted in the last 12 months for social homes, and how many of those social homes have started construction on site since you've been Deputy Prime Minister?
Well, I can't give you the granular detail of every single planning application, but what I can tell you is that we're monitoring what happens. I've done a number of call-ins. My department set up a specialist group that will help New Homes Accelerator. We are supporting councils with their negotiations on 106 notices to get more social and affordable homes as part of development. So we are looking at where the problems are with getting these houses and mixed tenure off the ground and are really pushing them. So we've already unlocked thousands of homes that the previous government wasn't able to deliver. But I can't give you the granite detail of every single planning application that we've had over 12 months.
You just said you were tracking it. So if you're tracking it, surely you should be able to say over the last 12 months we've granted planning permission for 10,000 houses and 4,000 have started on site. So you can't be tracking it if you haven't got those figures.
Is it worth me coming in here just to say, obviously we track overall planning permissions, but those are all granted at local level, so we can definitely look at kind of whether we can specify exactly how those break down between types of housing.
That's something you could probably write to us as a committee.
Yeah, but I think it's probably worth saying, you know, even in a situation where considering all of the different reforms that we've put into place, we wouldn't necessarily expect to see those filtering through in those numbers quite yet. And I think that goes back to what the Chair said at the beginning about housing starts and the fact that housing starts are still lagging behind where we would want them to be. But that is because there is a considerable lead time between the time of making these policy changes and actually seeing both planning permissions and housing starts following through.
Planning permissions are up 6%. That is something that we've already seen between January and March of 2025. Planning applications were up 6% from the same quarter last year. So that is sort of like the first indication of dealing with what was an inheritance of housing and applications going off a cliff, basically, under the previous government, of some of the reforms we've introduced. Well, it is true. I mean, the statistics were really clear, and we're turning that around now, and we're starting to see that planning applications are going through. The planning infrastructure bill, which is still not, you know, it's still in Parliament at the moment. They have some.
Come first makes the schools come first, because I couldn't find it. So can you tell us, as Secretary of State, then, what in the planning infrastructure bill makes infrastructure on development come first?
Well, first of all, the stuff, it's not the planning infrastructure. The infrastructure and the planning infrastructure bill is things like the nature recovery and dealing with things like nutrient neutrality and around streamlining planning. So planning applications, they can focus on the more contentious areas where you do need to then thrash out, as part of the planning process, the critical infrastructure that is needed. The role that we're playing across government through national infrastructure as well, and working with other departments, is about if there is a school or a hospital or roads. We're already investing in transport, significant amount of investment in transport that the previous government didn't do. And that is around making sure that if we're planning new towns, we're frustrated that developers would come back after agreeing a programme of infrastructure and then say, well, we can't deliver that. And we're already now holding them to account to say, you've promised that as part of the development, we're going to make sure that happens, and we're supporting local authorities in making sure they do that. Because that's the buy-in that you'll get from the public with
across each constituency. That's clearly not enough to meet the demand. Why has the government gone for the £39 billion figure? Is it what you genuinely think you can afford rather than what we as a country need?
Well, the country will need way more than what we can give them in terms of housing, but there again, being able to have the construction, to have the facilities to enable to get us to that place is a fine balance.